Gosh, it's so good to see you after like
I know.
so many years.
I think it's been 14. 14 or 15, because I was in college ministry the first time I was
At Glen Lake?
the speaker at Glen. Yes.
Because that was when Bus 7 was still
Yes.
leading worship. I actually was just there 2 weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
Doing worship, and Kenneth, the drummer, was just in here. He was the drummer for that week, and my keyboard player was the keyboard player, and so it was good.
So 2013 or 2014, I think.
I feel like 2014.
Okay. Yeah. I would have been there a year then.
Okay.
When? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So you're doing, what's your role now for the conference?
Yeah, so I'm director of care and healing.
Care and healing.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
What has been the highlight of your week?
The highlight of my week. Coming here, actually.
Yes.
What a gorgeous church.
This
friendly
campus
people.
is ridiculous.
Hospitable.
One of the most amazing churches I've ever worked at. And I've worked at a bunch of churches, but I found out later on, after I'd been working here, that other people, other pastors at other churches have referred to this place as a unicorn.
Oh,
Because-
yeah.
And I 100% get that, because I've never worked at a place with people like this, with a campus like this church is just completely different in all the right ways than any other church I've ever worked at.
Yes. And that's one of the joys of doing this work. I travel our conference. I put so many miles on my car this last year, and coming to hidden gems like this that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to otherwise. So it's
What was the last
awesome.
church you were at?
Keller UMC.
That's right.
Yeah, and I loved Keller UMC. And kind of funny story, I had been there about 6 months or so, and Bishop came to worship, and I'm like, oh, he's not here to talk to me. Like, I've only been here 6 months. I love his church. I want to be here a long time. It's gorgeous, fantastic, friendly church. And he says after worship, hey, we're creating this position called the Director of Care and Healing, and would you come and serve in this capacity? It's a new, and I said,
So this was recent.
yes, about a year and a half ago.
Okay. Oh, wait. So that would have been Central Texas Conference back before the merge. Who is the bishop then?
Well, so Bishop Lowry was before Bishop Sines in Central Texas, but then Bishop Sines came to serve Central Texas while he was also serving Great Plains. Then there was the unification,
Right.
of the three conferences.
Is that the official name? The
Yes,
unification. Wait, I thought it was
unification.
only 2 conferences.
3, Northwest Texas as well. Yeah, so we go all the way up into the Panhandle.
So now we're just a big old conference.
We're huge. We're massive. So he says, hey, we've got this new position, this new priority. Would you prayerfully consider serving? And the funny part is, the words just came out before I could think. And I said, but I love this church. And you know what he said? But there'll be 400 churches you can love.
Ooh,
And I was
that's
like,
good. That's a good pitch.
and you know what? He's been right. I have loved every church I've had the opportunity to visit. There's unique qualities about every single church, but there is such great work happening around the Horizon Texas Conference. It's so exciting.
Yeah. Well, so I can't believe I didn't realize it was 3 conferences.
Yeah,
I thought it was
yeah.
2. I mean, I've had so many conversations about it and everything, and just how so far, like, we hit the ground running from what I can tell.
Before we even hit the ground, we were running.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to join cabinet before my official start date of July 1st last year. So I served, I think it was about February, March of that previous year, to really kind of figure out what is happening, which way is up, try to.
So you were at Keller for 1 year.
Yeah.
And then bye.
Yeah.
That's so heartbreaking.
But it's in good hands there. Yeah. Reverend Meredith
Where
is
were you
fantastic.
before Keller?
Arlington Heights UMC. And before that was Arbor Lawn.
That's the one I remember. You were at Arbor Lawn. Gosh, who was at Arbor Lawn with you?
Dave Brower?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He's down in Waco now.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Ugh.
And then before that was college ministry. So that's where we met.
Wow.
Like in 2014. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been a journey. It's 15 years. Yeah. It's like blink of an eye. Like
It really has been way too long. That's
14 years.
crazy.
Yeah. Crazy.
Have you been to Glen Lake since?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes. Absolutely. Beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, so today, one of the things you were talking about that I love to talk about because it's so ridiculous, especially growing up in my like, just soaking in all the information years being in the 90s, Christian stereotypes.
I know, right? Yes.
Oh my gosh. Christian stereotypes. I have so many memories of just like, I'm going to use the term, the silliness that there was around Christian stereotypes and just what we thought of things. And I mean, not to say that like, because there's a lot of crossover in like stereotypes of like somebody with a bunch of piercings, a bunch of tattoos, blue, green, purple, whatever hair, and somebody that just has a look. Your first reaction, if you don't encounter those people daily, is you have thoughts.
Sure.
So I was just kind of curious, as like, what are some of your personal favorite Christian stereotypes that you grew up with?
Well, so I was a good little church girl and had all of the like WWJD bracelets. Like, and and so that was me. Like I had all the t-shirts and
A breadcrumb and fish.
Yeah.
That was one of my least favorite things. And I had one of those.
Did you?
I did. And in retrospect, I look back and I'm like, oh, that's so dumb.
Yeah. Well, and so it's funny because even those Christian stereotypes, how much they're just, inbred in you, I guess. Yeah. And so when I was starting I had finally answered my call to ministry after 10 years in the hotel industry, and answered my call to ministry and started looking around for seminaries. And I thought, who am I going to be going to school with? Like I had this picture of like all of these like Christian, like straight-laced, not fun seminarian students. And I was like,
yeah, we're definitely not fun. Boring.
But I thought for sure it was going to be like these holy, devout, like wake up at 6 a.m. to pray.
Have your mantra prepared.
Yeah. And there's no time for, well, there wasn't Netflix at the time, but like there was no time for like watching movies because they were spending so much time praying and studying and like, and only listen to like Amy Grant or like, I don't know. I'm dating myself, but
DC Talk back.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this was my first concert. Yeah. But yeah, that was my like, oh man, I'm gonna go to school with these people and they're not gonna be fun. Like, and it was complete opposite. Like, it was some of the best years, some of the most faith-forming years.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in those years where you're just being handed so much new information, and it's that information is helping to shape like this thing that you thought you kind of already had, but it's now being informed. Yeah, and you're like, oh wait, I've been thinking about this whole thing so wrong the whole time, and like trying to figure out, how much does theology, work with faith versus, kind of make you rethink your faith? I love those years.
Well, and it divided, it broke down the division of what was secular and what was Christian, what was religious. Yeah. Because really everything, like God is in all places and all spaces. And just because it's a quote secular song, like we can still take meaning from it. And that's what seminary showed me, like kind of breaking down, like you said, those Christian stereotypes and really being open to what is right in front of you that that you can learn from. Yeah.
That said, this was such a 90s thing. Here's a good 90s thing that it still happened in the early 2000s, but I hate it so much. And I'm so sorry if you were watching this podcast and you do this. Just know that I love you.
No judgment.
And I'm not judging you, but I absolutely hate this. It's when like you take a secular song or whatever and you do it in context of worship. Yeah. And I'm just like, I can't hear this song like this. It's
a little,
it's a little cringe for me. Like, especially if it's like one of my favorites that I've seen multiple times is people who are like, oh, I played music my whole life and I want to help and give to the church. And they don't know anything about worship music, which is fine. You can learn. But so they just start doing songs that use the word Jesus in there. Right, so like the Doobie Brothers are getting played in worship. And I've seen this in at least 3 churches where I'm sitting and it's a band of typically older people that are like, we're going to play, Jesus is just all right with me.
Right.
I'm like, stop everything you're doing, please.
That's funny.
Oh, and I just completely gets pulled out of worship, and I'm just so distracted. I'm like, this is so cringe.
That's
and
funny.
I need to just like hide in a corner right now. That's one of my favorite stereotypes I'm glad we've kind of gotten away from, because I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah.
But oof.
Well, I think what I learned though is that we're all trying to follow Jesus just a little bit better every day. Like, we're all in need of God's grace. When I answered my call to ministry, like, I had this kind of fear because I had been running from my call for so long as a child growing up. I felt a call as a little girl. So it's fun to see like little girls in worship, because I'm like, I see myself in you, you know? But I never wanted to be a pastor who was put on a pedestal, who was like, oh, she's got it all figured out. She's perfect. She's, holier than that. Because that is not me. Like, I am in need of God's grace every single day.
Yet another 90s stereotype that the pastor is this flawless human that has it all figured out.
Yes. And I accepted my call knowing like I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be real. I share when I preach a lot of personal stories of times where I've messed up, of times that I've been in need of forgiveness and God's grace, because we're all just trying to figure it out. And I think that vulnerability helps to connect with people, especially pastors. We've got a lot of weight on our shoulders.
Yes. I do not envy some of the hard conversations that pastors have to have.
Sure.
And I can't tell you, when David was still here, how many times I would walk back to go, because one of my favorite things to do during the week is just to casually walk into my pastor's office and then just like plop down while he's trying to actually work, and then distract him for 20 minutes and just kind of have conversation about whatever, completely unrelated. But the amount of times I would go back there and in his window, that look on his face where you could tell he's having a hard conversation. I'm like, oh, thank God that's not me. I just,
it's
that
really
is
hard.
that is a pastoral thing that, and not saying that I don't end up having to have hard conversations in my, my role here, but people don't come to me asking for big answers to really hard questions. I'm just like, oof, that's so tough.
Or how to answer a difficult situation with grace.
Yes.
I mean, so when I was in the hotel industry, a contract was a contract, and I interpreted it and I executed the contract the way it was supposed to be. And sometimes if the client didn't like that, it's tough. Like, that's how it is.
Here's the writing.
Like, I'm sorry. And like, let's just move on. And yet in serving for God, following Jesus always takes this examination of like, how am I truly living out the person I follow? How am I leading by grace? Like, people can say some really mean, harsh things, and like, I could just like, I could dig back. I could. We all could, right? We're human.
Well, it's like to.
But
that's our reaction, our gut reaction.
But you know what? I go back to WWJD bracelet, right? And like how Jesus would like extend grace. Now, not be trampled over. No. And there are boundaries that we, if you're going to speak to me this way, this isn't appropriate, and so not being walked all over. However, we're leading by grace and showing there's a different way to have a conversation. Yeah. But that takes a lot of emotional energy. It takes a lot of spiritual maturity.
It's hard. It's still hard. No matter how many years you practice that, it is still hard. When somebody, starts throwing knives, your default reaction, at least mine, is to kind of throw some knives back. Like, this whole turn the other cheek thing. Yeah, it's hard.
It is.
Okay, so you worked in the hotel industry, so an extension of the service industry for 10 years, you said? Yeah. Woo! Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, however, there's so many parallels to what makes somebody working in the service industry or hotel industry good at their job that are the exact same for being in ministry. Yeah. These same things. So, like, what do you think was the biggest thing that you got good at in the hotel industry that immediately translated when you got into ministry?
That's a good question. So actually, in one of the trainings that really stuck with me in the hotel industry, because I worked for Crown Plaza, Holiday Inn Express, for Hyatt, then the Gaylord. And so we did a lot of, just
Gaylord
trainings all
must
the
have
time.
been fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of work though. But yeah, one of the trainings from Hyatt was, when I was doing sales at the time, was find the need behind the need.
Ooh.
Find the need behind the need. And actually that has translated really well to ministry.
Yeah.
So someone comes in, they're really upset or there's a problem. I've always what is actually behind that? It's not usually about the issue. It's something behind that. And so I have, again, kind of tying in today's scripture, just been curious, just listening and helping to ask, helping them to understand what is actually, what I'm hearing behind this is, it's never usually about the problem.
That is
that's the
so
surface
true.
problem.
There's always a root issue
Yes.
that influences
Yes.
what this problem is, and theoretically we can just tackle this. But why don't we talk about this?
Yeah.
I like
so
that.
Brene Brown, in her book Atlas of the Heart, which I highly recommend, she says that we are layers of biology, biography, and backstory.
Ooh, biology,
Biography and backstory.
Ooh,
every
okay.
one of us. And so whether that is me talking with a pastor or me talking with a layperson or me just out in the community meeting, really frankly, anybody, right? We are all bringing those layers to us. And so if we can be curious and just listen and help people really kind of almost tamp down the anxiety or the stress or the fear, then we can get to the root of healing.
Okay, so with your new role, what does a typical week look like for Joy?
There is no typical week.
No typical week. Okay.
No, it's crazy. So under the umbrella of care and healing, it's compassion, justice, mental health ministries, crisis response, conflict resolution and transformation, disaster response, clergy care and well-being, and then also helping churches with laity being trained in systems of care so that they have care teams that are equipped to care for people inside and outside the walls of the church. And so depending on what is needed for that week is what we do. So a month or so ago, there was a tornado in Gordon. And so everything kind of comes to a stop. And then we're out there, hands and feet on the ground. Our disaster response coordinator, Reverend Jeremy Bassett, was right there helping our churches to assess what is needed at this time. They're working with city council, with the mayor, with the other churches in town, consulting with UMCOR. And so I'm helping kind of the back end of these things, try to figure out what's our next move, how can we best help. So that's happening. But keep in mind, just over a year ago, there was a tornado in Valley View.
Yep.
And so we are still there. The United Methodist Committee on Relief is in Valley View working on those recovery efforts as we speak. Yes. So that's happening.
So many things that just kind of fly under the radar,
Yes.
and we just aren't aware of it.
Right.
Obviously, I remember when that Valley View tornado hit, and I was just like, oh my gosh! And then I saw that there were some relief efforts, and a lot of churches were sending money and stuff like that. But then, that was a while ago.
Yeah,
and
about
so,
over a year ago. We're
so
still there doing
the fact that
recovery
we're still
efforts.
there, that is such an encouraging thought to know that we are still
Absolutely.
feet on the ground doing things to make sure that they're okay.
And then once the recovery efforts are done, then we're actually going to be in there building storm shelters for those persons. Because you can imagine the trauma that they all experienced, they went through.
Yeah,
so
they don't wanna go through that again.
we're gonna be building storm shelters in that community as well. So that's happening. Then I do a lot of pastoral care for our pastors. Pastor in the hospital this week. We have pastor with surgery. There's things that come up, pastor that's dealing with a crisis at a church. And so helping to coordinate those efforts, following up. We've got retired clergy that have questions, that need things, that are, maybe having a surgery. So working with retired clergy and following up with them as well. Helping them get connected to benefits that they may need.
You have a lot of things on your plate.
Yeah, we've got a couple upcoming care trainings in Dallas in September. one in English, one in Spanish. And so working with our churches to gather laity and those teams, develop teams to come to those trainings that are coming.
Yeah.
We just booked our speaker for the women's retreat happening at the end of January in 2026.
Fun.
And it's going to be at Glen Lake Camp. So, yep.
Let's
Glen
go.
Lake, yeah. It's going to be awesome. So working on that. Plus, we're doing a lot of work around immigration. My associate director, Reverend Andrew Pfizer, is doing a fantastic job helping interfaith organizations within the city of Dallas to gather us. We're going to be stronger in numbers. So doing a lot of interfaith work, immigration work, justice. We've got some mental health workshops coming up. So
what you're saying is you do literally everything.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That is
It's
just
a lot.
bananas.
Yeah.
How many things, how many spinning plates you have.
Lots. Yes.
That is wild.
Yeah. And then having the opportunity to preach on the weekend. So a lot of
Lucky
pastors.
you.
Yeah. Well, a lot of pastors. No, it is like a lot of pastors take off in the summer, which is huge for clergy care. We need to make sure our clergy are taking care of themselves, taking that time off. And so when I'm asked to preach, I jump at the opportunity, and I'm honored to be in the churches and meeting people. And so
That's
yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So last thing,
Yes.
I wanted to just give you a high five for referencing one of the greatest feel-good shows of all time.
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso's okay. So just the idea that a show, you're going to walk away feeling great.
Yeah.
And that scene, I cannot tell you how many times I have YouTubed that exact scene and watched it, because I just feel this sense of like, yes. And the perfect use of Walt Whitman quote.
Right.
Be curious, not judgmental. I might get that tattooed on me.
I love it.
It's just so good. So I loved that you incorporated
Thank
that
you.
in and
Thank you.
like kind of tied that in with your fabulous message today.
Thank you.
Which, if you haven't watched it, go watch it.
I think that it speaks to every part of our life. So I have a 4-year-old son. My husband and I have a 4-year-old son. He's a great father, so I have to give him credit. Great husband too. And it's interesting because while it's not judgment, there are things he asks questions about that I think that I understand what he's asking about. So as an example, the other day, so we pray every single night, and we pray before meals, and we always start at Dear God. So the other day, he said, Mama, why dear God? And I'm thinking, why are we asking our prayers to go to God? Okay. I made that judgment. Like, oh, I know he's asking me. Like, well, honey, like I like go into this whole big thing of like, well, like it's like to God, like we're centering our hearts and minds to go to God. And like, he's thinking deer, like an animal.
DEER.
Right.
Why is God a deer?
Right.
Does he have antlers?
Why are we calling God? But I
love it.
But again, if we're curious, like, well, what do you mean by that? So now I have slowed down a little bit and asked, like, what do you mean? So he's so cute. The other day, we're getting ready to pray for dinner, and I'm like, okay, let's stop eating, because usually he's there starting to chow down. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna pray. He's like, Mama, why are we praying again? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, but we're gonna do it in just a couple more hours. Like, why are we? And so just his mind helps me think of like, how can I be curious in a mind of a 4-year-old? Yeah, and then also our reactions to things. So if we have a strong reaction to something, be curious about it. Why? What is this triggering inside of me? Are there other times that I've experienced this feeling of fear or anxiety? Like, what is this building up inside of me? And then again, when you approach people, like what's behind this, the checkout lady, at Walmart could be, having a really bad mood, and we don't know like what her day has been, And so instead of like, oh, goodness, so rude. It's like, hey, are you having a bad day? Like what's going on, and you may be able to have a dialogue or may not, but honestly, then I just pray for them. Like, I hope that
absolutely
their day gets better.
So remember, be curious, not judgmental. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you, Joy, so much for
My
coming.
pleasure. Thank you.
Your message, getting to hear it twice, was fabulous.
Thank you.
Creekwood is very lucky this morning to have you part of worship. So check out, all the stuff. Like, how could people keep up with your work?
So our website, htcumc.org.
Boom.
Horizon Texas Conference, umc.org.
I asked the same question of Stacy Piakun, who was here a few weeks ago, and I asked, like, how can we keep up? And I was like, that's probably a good thing to know.
Yeah, htcumc.org. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. You can sign up for the newsletter called On the Horizon that comes out every single week.
A little on the nose, but okay.
Yeah, well, it works.
On the horizon.
It works. You gotta
I'm
use all
so
the
sorry
things.
if you are watching this and you're the one who came up with that. It's fine. It's a good name.
It was
All right.
me.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us on Sunday
Thank
Plus.
you.
We will catch you next week. Peace.